So you are now on the second video with me, and you're on page 555, and we're going to start looking at some more classifying triangles by its angles and its sides. So we're going to start with the story on page 555, where it says Julia practices jumping on a ski ramp. The front of the ramp is a triangle like the one shown below. So number one underneath says draw an X through the type of angle that is not shown in the triangle. So when you look at the triangle, you have a right 90-degree angle, you have an 80-degree angle, and then this over here looks pretty small. We don't know the measurement, but it's a small acute angle. So if I look, we've got the right, we've got the acute, we're going to cross out the obtuse angle. That's not shown in that triangle. Number two, measure the unknown angle. Describe the relationship between the 80-degree angle and the unknown angle. So we know this is 90 right here. And based on the video that you would have watched on Monday about triangles, you would have been told in that video that all together, triangles, all the angles added, equal 180 degrees. So if you know this is 90, and you know this is 80, 90 plus 80 plus what is going to give us 180? Well, remember, this is really small. This is an acute angle. So I have 170 here. That must mean that that angle is 10 degrees. So knowing that all the angles inside the triangle equal 180, you don't necessarily have to measure it. If you're given two angles, you should be able to tell that third one, it's 10 degrees. Number three, draw a triangle with one obtuse angle. Draw a triangle with one obtuse angle. So that's what we're going to start with, right? So they're just having us draw this by classifying it by its angle. So here's my obtuse angle, and then I'm just going to close that third side to make it a triangle. So right here is the obtuse angle. And then it says underneath that, number four, is it possible to draw a triangle with two obtuse angles? Well, think about that. If you draw another one, and then let's say you draw another one, are you going to get a triangle out of that? You're not. It's going to create four sides, right? Which would actually, if you slide those two together, would give you a quadrilateral. So it's not possible. And it will not connect to make a triangle. Not possible. It will not connect to make a triangle. Okay, so as soon as you have that, you're going to turn to page 556. And at the top of page 556, you see classify triangles. So this right here is what we were talking about yesterday in the video, as well as in your vocabulary. So here's one more set of pictures and classifications for your triangles by the sides. So up top, by the angles up top here. These are by angles. And down here, these are by the sides. So if we come down, let's try the got it on the bottom of page 556. Draw a triangle that satisfies the set of conditions below and then classify that triangle. So it's asking you to draw a triangle with one right angle and two congruent sides here. So we're going to have one right angle. I'm going to get that drawn in first. I'm going to put the box in the corner. Now, two congruent sides, which means I have to have two sides of this triangle that are the exact same. So I need this height of the triangle to be the same as this base of the triangle right here. So I'm going to put those tick marks to indicate that those need to be the same length. And when you draw it, you just draw it the best you can, eyeball it to see if those two side lengths are about the same. And then what you would do is just draw that third side in. And this is now considered, right over here, a right isosceles triangle. So if you couldn't remember what two congruent sides mean, you can look back up here on the top of page 556. Two congruent sides, isosceles, one right angle, right triangle, or you can look at your vocab sheet. Okay, let's try something different. So we're going to go to the next page and we're going to take a look on page 557. Okay, so 557. So example number 2. This just shows here that if you look at the triangle on the house, the roof, and you classify it by its sides and by its angles, when you take a look, you've got 2 tick marks on 2 of the sides, which would mean those are the same measurements there. And so we know based on what we just did a minute ago, that is considered an isosceles triangle. And then also you look at the angles. So you have an acute angle, 2 acute angles at the bottom, left and right. And up top here, sometimes you might have to just turn your book a little bit so you see it in a better view than right here, because not necessarily you might not see that this is obtuse. So again, you could always turn your book and see that that's a wider angle greater than 90 degrees. So that's an obtuse isosceles triangle. Okay, so letter B. Classify the triangle shown by its angles and by its sides. Well, right away, I see this right angle. So for sure, I know it's a right triangle. And now I need to look at its sides. So all 3 sides, I don't see any markings. This base on the left-hand side looks pretty small. And then this height going along the bottom looks a lot bigger than the base. And then that third side, the actual ramp itself that he's skating on, this is always the longest side in a triangle. And so that length, that third side, is also going to be different and longer than the other 2. So you have 3 different sides here. So remember, if you have 3 different sides on a triangle, that's considered scalene. So you have a right scalene triangle. Okay, we're going to go back to the sum in the triangle of 180 degrees. We're going to hit those actually on Thursday. We're going to keep going. We're going to look at guided practice on page 558, just number 1 here. So draw a triangle with 3 acute angles and 2 congruent sides. Classify the triangle. 3 acute angles, all 3 have to be less than 90 degrees, and 2 congruent sides. So you could do something like this. You could make a taller triangle and make the left and the right the same. So those are your 2 congruent sides. So if that's the case, we know this is isosceles. And then draw that third side in. And since all 3 angles have to be acute, all 3 all the way around are less than 90. So acute isosceles triangle. Okay, independent practice. So I'm going to do number 1, and then I'm going to have you try a few. Number 1, again, we're going to draw a triangle with 3 acute angles and 3 congruent sides. 3 congruent sides this time. So that means when you draw your triangle, when you're eyeballing it the best you can, you're going to try to make all 3 sides the same. And you can put those tick marks in there like that. And then that would show 3 congruent sides and then 3 acute angles. So those are automatically forming 3 acute angles all inside that triangle. So you have an acute. And if you look at your vocabulary or you go back in the book to the top of page 556, when all 3 sides are the same, it's equilateral. Acute equilateral triangle. You try drawing number 2, and then after you draw number 2 and you classify it, take a look at number 3, 4, and 5. So they give you the pictures. You don't have to draw, but what you're going to do is look at each of those pictures and look at the markings on the pictures and the angles, and then classify it by its angles and its sides like we've been doing. So pause the video, try 2 through 5, and then when you're ready, come back and take a look at the answers. Okay, number 2, a triangle with one right angle and no congruent sides. So you're going to try to make all 3 sides different. So if you have to, since you're not using a ruler, and again, you're eyeballing it, you can always justify it by saying, okay, this is 3 inches maybe. This is 4. And maybe over here, this is 6. This third side is always the longest side on a triangle. It's called a hypotenuse. So if I even show it with the measurements, then that would show that that would be no congruent sides. So you have a right scalene triangle. Number 3, you should have come up with acute. And then if you look at the sides all the way around, these are equilateral. So acute equilateral triangle. Number 4, the cat's ear. Same thing. You have 3 small, less than 90-degree angles. And you see the markings on the side. That is also equilateral. Number 5, you see a bigger angle up top. And so that is obtuse. And then the markings, there's only 2 markings, and they both have a single tick mark on there. Same side lengths for those 2 only, so that would make it isosceles. Okay, you're gonna try a couple more, and then afterwards, I'll explain to you what you're gonna do next. So you're gonna go to extra practice. You're gonna try 16 again, 17, 18, and 19, those next 4. Classify by angles and sides, and draw in 18 and 19 and classify. I'll meet you back here with the answers. Okay, there's your answers for 16, 17, 18, and 19. Again, without using a ruler to be able to draw your triangles, I know it's tough to do a scalene, or even, when you're trying to do an isosceles and get 2 sides the same. I get that it's hard not using a ruler. You're just using your eyeballs to kind of focus in and try to make them the same sizes if you need to, or different sizes. Just do the best you can. I'm not going to ask you to draw anything on a quick check. You just really need to be able to identify how the angles are classified and how those sides are classified based on markings or other hints given in the problem. Okay, so that ends the bookwork. We're going to come back up here. And the next thing you do on the agenda at letter B is thatquiz.org. And I just want to go over some directions on that right now. And then when you finish, because I'm only going to have you do a little bit of this, then you'll head into, if you still have time, to some more BuzzMath to continue working on the assignments that you've been given there. So let me pull up that quiz. And this time in that quiz, you're going to go to geometry and you're going to go to triangles. And here you can do a length of 10. Start back at level 3. And the only thing that I'm going to have you check mark is identify. And now these triangles that you have in that quiz, you will not see markings. And so you're going to, again, do the best you can based on the picture and your options here, right? So you can use some process of elimination to help you narrow down what type of triangle this is. You only have to pick one. So if I look at the picture, for example, in this one, I don't have a right angle, so I'm not going to choose that. I don't have an obtuse angle anywhere here, so I'm not going to choose that. It looks like all 3 of those sides are the exact same, and so I would say that this is equilateral. I'm not going to choose scalene because it didn't look like any of them were different, and I got it right. Here's another one. So here, not an obtuse angle, not a right angle. This looks identical to the one we just had, except for all I did was turn the answers around. This is equilateral also. Okay, this one's a little different. Not right, not obtuse. You have 3 acute angles there. And isosceles, it does not look like you have any sides that are the same length. So we're going to say acute triangle. Hopefully I get this one right. Yep. This one here, you have one obtuse angle, but that's not an option for me. I don't have a right. Definitely not equilateral. Isosceles, nope. These, I don't have two sides here that are the same. So we're going to say this one's scalene, and so on. So I would say maybe 5 minutes. You don't have to take very long on this, but it just helps you identify some triangles without markings on them. And also just getting used to the vocabulary of your sides and your angles when you classify them. So within 5 minutes, see how far you can get. It skips around here for the levels. Go to whatever levels you'd like and identify those triangles. 5 minutes. And then again, if you still have time after that, you'll head to BuzzMath and continue to work on those lessons. So have a great Tuesday and have a great Wednesday at home. And I will see you back on Thursday.